friends. So this is the week of Thanksgiving in the U.S., and with that usually comes a lot of discussion about being thankful, obviously, and celebrating the good in our lives, etc., and so on. And, you know, the world has been an interesting place this year. There's a lot going on everywhere, and not all of it is good. It's been a tough year for a lot of folks, and not everyone is going to find it easy to be thankful this year. Some of us may have to dig a little deeper to find that. But I made this video because I want to talk about something that is kind of related to being grateful, and that is the subject of caring about others and having empathy. And sometimes the things that you're grateful for is that you don't have firsthand knowledge of bad things that other people are going through. And that is, I think, the time where you have to actually dig the deepest, because you have to try to find that empathy and that caring. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't feel like it even needs to be said that you should care about other people. You should care about other people's feelings. You should care about their well-being and their rights and their ability to live their life freely and comfortably. I mean, you want that for yourself, don't you? So why wouldn't you want that for everyone else too? Well, in a perfect world, you would. But in the real world we actually live in, this is often not the way things end up being. There are a lot of people who, sad to say, simply do not care enough about other people to be able to feel genuine empathy towards them. If they haven't been through something, they don't understand it, and they don't even have patience for it. They have this overwhelming sense of self that precludes them from doing anything at all that benefits anyone but them. And when they do something for another person, there's always a hidden or ulterior motive behind it. Either it's a mask that they're putting on so others think they're a good person, or they are trying to build an image that they are someone who is much better than they actually are. Or they're doing it as leverage with the expectation that perhaps later on they will get something out of it in some way that will benefit them. A pay now, call in that favor later plan, if you will. So often, these people will be the very same ones who will climb to the nearest rooftop and scream about what a good person they are. Let me tell you something that you probably already know, but I believe it's worth it to remind people every time. Being a good person is sort of like being wealthy or highly intelligent. If you have to keep telling people that you are, then you probably aren't. And the louder you shout it, the more insecure it makes you seem. Sorry, not sorry. I know this might sound a little harsh, but based on my own experience, I have known quite a few people who are very vocal and out there about what wonderful, selfless people they are, when in reality, they're conniving and selfish. They are always putting on the public face of being kind and generous and willing to do anything to help others, but people who really know them know that not to be true. So, yeah, a lion never needs to tell you that it's a lion. You can see that by looking at them, because they're doing lion things. And a person who's a good person doesn't need to show you or tell you that they're a good person either, because they're out there doing good person things. You can tell from their actions and how they treat others, especially, regardless of what their words may say. So speaking of that, years and years ago, when I was younger, I remember reading something in a book that discussed character. I can't remember what it said exactly, but it said something like, true character is what you do when the boss is not looking, because the real boss is the one that looks you in the mirror every single day. I have repeated that statement to other people through the years, and some have thought that it had to do with spiritual or religious beliefs, but while I guess I can see how some might take it that way, I never did. I mean, I think you can be a good person regardless of what spiritual beliefs you have, or even if you don't have any at all. Honestly, I feel like if you need to have a moral code explicitly written down for you in order for you to act in love and kindness, if you need to be told to do that by a spiritual being or a book or ritual or anything like that, then I'm sorry, but you're doing it wrong. You should be a good person because you should be a good person, not because someone else is watching or you're afraid of what could happen to you if you aren't. So anyway, while I have my own spiritual beliefs, the real boss to me in that scenario has always been me. I'm the one who looks at myself in the mirror every day. I'm the one who has to see myself and as such live with the consequences of my actions and my words. I'm the one who has to look at myself in clear conscience and know that I made a mistake. I'm the one who needs to acknowledge I was a jerk, or I was rude, or inconsiderate, or impatient, or I acted badly. And I'm the one who has to feel that guilt or whatever emotion I see when I was wrong. And on the flip side of that, in order for me to look in that mirror and like what I see consistently, I have to behave accordingly. I have to be kind and considerate and patient and try to do right by people and learn from my mistakes. That also means, well, truly caring about people in earnest and not just for show or because that's what other people expect me to do. It means I will help people because that's the right thing, not because I'm worried about the optics. Listen, I do things for people often. Sometimes I talk about it and sometimes I don't say a word to anyone. I've done more kindnesses for strangers or help people than I will ever sit and tell anyone about. Because in the end, it is not about that. That isn't what kindness is supposed to be. And when I do talk about it, it is not because I want to create this public perception or because I want accolades or anything like that. It's because part of caring about other people, to me, is also about inspiring others to do it too. Motivating people to pay it forward or whatever you want to call it. It's about, when I get to where I'm going, leaving the ladder there for the next person. So what this has to do with the subject of the message is this: when something difficult is going on in someone else's life, it definitely helps and gives you better perspective on understanding what they're going through when you have been there yourself, when you have first-hand knowledge. But first-hand knowledge is not a requirement in order for you to be kind and empathetic and understanding to those people. You don't have to lose a family member in a tragic accident in order to understand why that is devastating for people. You shouldn't have to be the victim of a hate crime to understand why hate crimes are wrong. You shouldn't have to face impossible circumstances where you need to escape something because your life literally depended on it in order to have some compassion for someone who has done that. You shouldn't have to be the person who is ostracized or discriminated against to understand how it feels to the person who is experiencing that. And you shouldn't just shrug oh well, when you purposely do things that might not affect your life directly or even at all, that you're just taking a chance on, but that are certainly going to negatively impact or hurt other people. Look, I understand that not everyone is altruistic or selfless. And let's face it, most people aren't. But everyone should be capable of practicing at least some care and consideration of others. You should be able to find some sympathy and some compassion and some ability to see things from other points of view also. Because listen, there will come a day when it's you that's suffering or being shunned or having something painful and difficult happen to you. And sometimes it'll be something that happened because that you had no control over. And when that day comes, wouldn't you want someone to understand and have compassion for you? Wouldn't you want grace? Wouldn't you want someone to care about you and how you feel and have empathy? Of course you would. That's very basic humaning 101. Kindness and caring, much like respect, are two-way streets. You have to give both things to get both things. So, if you want someone to care about you, you have to care about them. If you want someone to respect you, you have to respect them. And if you want someone to consider how their actions make you feel, then you need to consider theirs also. That's it. Call it do unto others, or you get what you give, or whatever you want to call it. But don't just call it by a name. Don't just say it. Do it. Because the world has been becoming meaner and less caring, and just a place where, well, people are shitty to each other on a daily basis. It's never been kind by default, per se. But I feel like it's been getting progressively less tolerant and less understanding as we go along, and this is not okay. Not at all. And it's up to us to change that. By dropping the tribalism and BS and things that make us unkind, because that is never going to mend fences. By not invalidating other people's feelings and their right to have them. By thinking about the things that we say and do before we say and do them, in order to make sure we aren't hurting other people with either. And by not needing to be personally affected by painful or difficult things, in order for us to be understanding of the people that are affected. It's long past time to make being a selfish ass monkey something we shun instead of celebrate. There is nothing to be proud of in that. I'm not an expert in theology or philosophy or anything remotely close to that, but I'd be willing to bet a considerable amount of money that there is no belief system, whether it be religious or secular, that encourages you to be selfish and not give a care about other people. Not one. There are none that I can think of either which encourage you to use other people as stepping stones, or belittle them, or make fun of them. None that tell you to pull up ladders instead of help the people behind you. None that encourage you to think only about yourself when you make decisions. None that encourage you to make other people feel small in order for you to feel bigger. None which say that you should tell people how to live their life, or that you should encourage them to be less than who they are because you are uncomfortable with their authenticity. None that say the key to personal freedom is the oppression of your fellow human being. In fact, most say the opposite of that. I could go on, but I think what I'm trying to say here can be summed up by in a quote from a civil rights leader who was a contemporary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but sadly not as famous, Fannie Lou Hamer. Nobody is free until everybody's free. I've read, well, a lot of things, but there are few things that I have read ever that are more profound and true than that. Here's something else that we are long overdue on: making caring cool again. I mean, it was never uncool, if you ask me. It was always the right choice. By caring, I mean understanding that sometimes there's a greater good than just you. There is way more to this life and this world than just what happens in the corners of your house or your life. And by caring, I also mean having compassion for people and not making their suffering and pain a joke or a mockery or belittling it or diminishing it. Yeah, people really do that these days. And I don't know how else to say this. It's gross. And it's a sign that the person who's doing it really needs to grow the F up. That's all I will say for now on that. So, on this, the week where we in the United States give thanks for our respective blessings, I'd like to give you a little reminder that not all blessings are in the form of material things. In fact, the best and most valuable ones that you can ever have come in the form of people. Good people. People who are loyal and caring and kind. People who love you. If you are lucky enough to have people like this in your life, don't forget to give thanks for them too. And when you're done counting your blessings, here's something you could try. Try being a blessing to someone else. How do you do that? Be compassionate and kind. Be a friend, a real one. Be considerate of other people's feelings when they aren't the same as yours. Be patient with people who are going through hard times, because someday it might be your turn and that's what you'd want. Be respectful and considerate of other people's feelings, especially when you are making decisions that will negatively affect them. And never lose sight of the fact that while everyone is different, everyone belongs. Everyone is equal, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, or anything else. Period. Everyone is deserving of kindness, consideration, respect, and compassion. Even those people who look, believe, and live differently than you do. Give that kindness and that compassion freely and without judgment, even if you don't understand something about their life. Remember that not everything is for everyone to understand. Be open-minded. It's a very human thing to do, and it's one of the best ways you can actually be a good person instead of just simply saying that you are. There's never been a better time to do this, friends, than right now. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.